Have you ever stood in front of someone and suddenly felt yourself shrink? A judgmental glance, a subtle, sarcastic remark, a moment where you were belittled and could only smile it off, but later, an uncomfortable question echoed inside you. Why don't they respect me? And deeper than that, or maybe, I truly have no value. Jung believed that the fear of being judged is not merely a social fear, but an echo from within, from the part of you that you yourself do not respect. The more you try to look strong and flawless, the more your inner shadow gets suppressed, and the easier it becomes for others to touch the very wound you're hiding. True respect does not come from flexing, appearing intimidating, wealthy, or afraid of no one. It comes from something deeper, the weight of your soul. From having the courage to face your own weakness, envy, shame, and vulnerability. From daring to live as the person your soul wants, not as a copy of the crowd. This video will not teach you tricks to make others fear you. It contains Jung's 7 profound rules for becoming the kind of person who, even in silence, commands respect. And here is the question for you. Are you willing to walk with me to the end of this video, to look at yourself honestly enough that it might feel uncomfortable? Because after these 7 rules, you may no longer live or tolerate life the way you always have. Rule 1. Face your shadow. Number 1. Look directly at your shadow. If you're exhausted from constantly proving that you're fine, perhaps it's time to return to the very beginning of every journey of growth, looking straight at the thing you've been avoiding all along. Jung said that within every human being exists a part we avoid at all costs. He called it the shadow. Not something supernatural, not something inherently evil, but the collection of everything about yourself you don't want to see. The envy you deny, the anger you claim is not like you, the ambition you buried because you feared judgment, the softness you hide to appear strong. The shadow is the storeroom of all traits, emotions, desires, and wounds you lack the courage to face. And because you avoid it, it becomes the root cause of why people find it so easy to look down on you. The problem is not that you are weak. The problem is that you are afraid to see yourself as weak. When you try to hide a part of yourself, you unintentionally give others the power to touch it. For example, if you deny your envy, you will immediately feel irritated by anyone more successful than you. And if you try to prove that you're not angry, not selfish, not hurt, all it takes is someone hitting close to the truth, and you overreact far more than necessary. But the irony is this: what you avoid inside will return from the outside. If you reject your envy, you become hypersensitive to those who surpass you. If you refuse your vulnerability, you become easily hurt when someone brushes against it. If you deny your anger, people can manipulate your emotions with just a few provocative words. The shadow you refuse to look at will find a way to express itself in the very form that disempowers you most. Jung always believed that true respect begins when you take responsibility for what's inside you instead of blaming the world. This is not philosophy, it's real transformation. Think about it. Has there ever been a moment when someone said something that hit a truth you secretly knew about yourself and you instantly felt anger, shame, or the urge to avoid them? That intensity did not come from the comment. It came from the part of you you've been hiding. That moment is a reminder that you haven't faced your shadow. Facing your shadow means accepting that you have flaws, unpleasant emotions, and instinctive needs like anyone else. It doesn't make you worse. In fact, it makes you steadier. Because once you know what you carry, you no longer panic when someone points at it. They lose their weapons against you. Your emotions lose their power to control you. You step out of the loop where the more you deny, the more sensitive and fragile you become. Jung believed that true respect begins here. When you dare to look at the parts you find shameful, you free the energy you've been locking away. A person who suppresses their anger becomes easy to manipulate. But someone who acknowledges their anger and uses it to set boundaries can no longer be walked over. A person who denies their ambition becomes bitter and spiteful. But once they admit, "I want more," they gain the real motivation to act, not to sabotage. A person who hides their vulnerability always fears abandonment. But when they say, "I want to be loved," they become more honest and grounded in their relationships. Many people think facing the shadow means meditating or journaling about their emotions. In truth, it's far more practical. It appears in every ordinary moment. When you feel envious of a co-worker praised by the boss. When you're angry because your partner didn't meet your expectations. When someone just irritates you for no reason. Each reaction is a quiet message. There is something here you haven't faced yet. Instead of reacting immediately, Jung encouraged us to pause. Instead of defending yourself, ask, "What in me gave birth to this emotion? Which part of me feels threatened?" What you think is weakness is often trapped energy, unused assertiveness, the ability to protect yourself, dreams you pushed aside out of fear, and sensitivity you once were mocked for. When you allow these parts to surface without shame, their energy transforms into strength. Instead of hovering and sabotaging you, they become a silent power that helps you stand firm under the gaze of others. If you're easily offended when someone calls you useless, ask yourself, why does that phrase carry so much weight? It might trace back to something from childhood, a moment of failure, or a self-image you've pushed down. When you face the shadow and say, "Yes, I have felt useless before, but that is only one part of me, not my entire being," insults lose their power. You become harder to shake because you understand clearly what you encompass. A person who has looked directly at their shadow possesses a unique calmness. Not the fake "I don't care" facade, but the calmness that comes from having nothing left to hide. When you no longer fear the truth about yourself, you no longer fear the eyes of others. And others begin to respect you more deeply, not because you intimidate them, but because they sense in you a level of honesty they themselves haven't dared to reach. Number 2. Learn to sit with negative emotions. The next thing you must do once you've recognized your shadow is learn to sit with it. Jung said nothing terrifies humans more than facing their own emotions. Negative emotions are like an undertow. The more you resist them, the stronger they become. But if you allow yourself to sit with them, they dissolve like sea foam. Self-respect and respect from others begin at the very moment you stop running from the pain rising in your chest. We are never taught how to sit with emotions. As children, whenever we felt sad, we were told to stop crying. Whenever we were angry, we were told, "Don't make a fuss." Whenever we were afraid, we were mocked as weak. Eventually, we learned to live like sealed containers. Everything gets shoved to the bottom, but emotions never disappear. They wait for the right moment to erupt in a way that makes us lose control. Jung called this the revenge of the unconscious. Sitting with negative emotions isn't about enduring or surrendering. It's how you reclaim power from your shadow. Someone who knows how to sit with their emotions isn't easily manipulated by a careless remark. They aren't triggered by every small judgment. They aren't swept away by sudden waves of anger or sadness. And this stability makes others respect you, because they sense you cannot be knocked off balance easily. In real life, many people lose the respect of others simply because they cannot sit with their own emotions. Someone gets lightly criticized and immediately overreacts, escalating a small issue. Someone feels dismissed and rushes to prove themselves, argue, or say things they regret. Someone gets rejected and spirals into panic, sending dozens of messages and losing their dignity. They believe this is being genuine, but in truth, they are being dragged around by their emotions like puppets. They are not weak. They are simply unfamiliar with sitting with pain. Jung said, "There can be no transforming of darkness into light and of apathy into movement without emotion." Sitting with your emotions allows the wound to be seen. It sounds simple, but it is one of the deepest psychological maturations a person can undergo. Imagine something very ordinary. You feel jealous. Instead of denying it and blaming others, try sitting with it. Where does it feel hot? Where is it heavy? What does it want you to do? When an emotion is observed, it loses its destructive force. You begin to see that jealousy is simply a signal, pointing at something you want but haven't pursued. Instead of sabotaging yourself or resenting others, you can use the emotion as a compass for clearer action. When you sit with negative emotions, you send yourself a powerful message. I am strong enough to face this truth. No hiding, no distracting yourself, no pretending to be perfect. This absolute honesty with your inner world creates a weight that others cannot overlook. Sitting still does not mean staying silent forever. It is preparation. Once the emotion settles, you act from clarity, not fear. If you need to set a boundary, you'll do it calmly and firmly. If you need to decline something, you'll say no without trembling. If you need to leave a harmful relationship, you'll walk away with clarity. A person who can do this carries a quiet authority. No need to prove anything. Others simply feel it. In modern psychology, this is called emotion regulation. But Jung saw further. He viewed it as the moment where the unconscious and conscious begin to harmonize. When you sit with negative emotions, you are doing something very few people dare to do, opening the door for your rejected parts to return. And when they return, you become a more whole human being. This is why Jung said, "Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event." And once you know how to sit with negative emotions, you move to the deeper stage of facing the shadow, transforming it into strength and boundaries. That is the next step in the journey of building respect from within. Number 3, turning aggressive energy into presence. When you're strong enough to sit with your most uncomfortable layers of emotion without running away, a new door opens. Instead of being swallowed by that energy, you begin to be able to hold it in your hands and guide it in the direction you choose. This is what Jung constantly emphasized, because understanding the shadow is not enough. Accepting it is not enough. The energy inside you, especially aggressive, angry, explosive energy, if not transformed, will destroy you. But if transformed correctly, it becomes the very thing that makes people feel you, even when you don't say a word. Imagine your aggressive energy as fire. If you light it inside a closed room, it burns everything down, including you. But if you place it in a furnace, it warms the whole house. It gives heat, creates light, and brings life. Your power works the same way. Whether the fire destroys or nourishes depends on the one who tends it. So how do you turn aggressive energy into presence? Jung didn't use modern words like boundary, assertiveness, or somatic awareness, but his philosophy leads directly to the following practices. Practice 1. Bring the energy down into your body. What makes anger dangerous is that it shoots straight to your head. Words spill out, your facial muscles tense, your mind heats up, and you lose control. That's why the first step to owning aggressive energy is to pull it back into the body. When you feel like you're about to explode, don't try to stay calm through sheer willpower. Willpower is far too small to stand against a wave from the unconscious. Instead, breathe deeply down into your belly. Feel your chest open. Feel your weight on the ground, as if you're rooting down deeper. Let the weight of your body draw the energy downward, from head to chest, from chest to belly, from belly to legs. Within just a few seconds, something strange happens. You no longer want to explode, but you also no longer want to run away. You stand firm, calm, like a rock that the waves cannot knock over. In that moment, anger no longer controls you. It becomes something you're holding in your hands. Practice 2. Turn anger into clear boundaries. Anger is essentially a signal. Something has been violated. Instead of exploding, let your anger show you where a boundary needs to be set. For example, instead of, "Don't you dare talk to me like that," you say, "That way of speaking isn't appropriate. If you want to discuss this, let's talk again in a different way." This is not a weakness. This is power that has been organized. A person who sets clear, calm boundaries always gives the impression of being hard to cross, and that naturally earns respect. Practice 3. Turn aggression into grounded presence. Jung believed that when a person reconciles with their shadow, their body changes before their personality does. This change is not loud. It's subtle, but easy to recognize. Your posture becomes more upright, not because you're forcing yourself, but because you're no longer shaking inside. Your breath becomes deeper, because you're no longer afraid of your own emotions. Your voice is slower and steadier, because you no longer need to talk fast to win an argument. That is presence, the thing that makes others automatically adjust themselves when you walk into a room. Those who have transformed their aggression often speak less, but every word has weight. Not a cold, indifferent kind of silence, but the quiet of someone who knows themselves. Their strength lies in their unmoving core. And it's exactly this steadiness that stops others from testing their limits. This is calm that does not come from suppression, but from energy that has settled, no longer leaking out through pointless outbursts. Practice 4. Channel explosive energy into deliberate action. Your anger always wants you to do something. The important question is, do what? Someone who hasn't transformed their anger will use it to argue, lash out at innocent people, or destroy what they've built. Someone who has transformed it will use anger for intentional action. If you're angry about injustice, use that energy to upgrade yourself, improve your skills, build what you want, or leave the place that is making you smaller. If you're angry about being disrespected, use that energy to adjust how you relate and respond, not to take revenge on others. Jung did not encourage empty promises. He said, "You are what you do," meaning your energy is proven by your actions, not your reactions. When you use heat to push yourself toward what you want, instead of pushing it onto others, you gradually become the kind of person people are cautious around and respect. Because you don't lose yourself in anger, you use anger to become sharper. Practice 5. Train inner strength through small situations. You don't have to wait until someone insults you to use this strength. Inner power doesn't come from dramatic moments. It's forged in small, everyday situations. When you say no to something you don't want, when you say, "I need time," instead of forcing yourself to endure, when you stay calm in the face of a tactless remark, when you choose what's right for you, even if others aren't pleased. Each small act is like pouring another batch of metal into the mold. Gradually, your inner core becomes solid, dense, hard to shake. And then, even when you don't say a word, people can feel it. There is someone here who will not be easily moved. Rule 2. Step away from the crowd. Enter the journey of individuation. Exactly at the moment you begin to own your darkness, a new need arises, very naturally, very instinctively, to live as yourself, not as the image others want to see. A journey where you no longer ask, "What do they think of me?" but begin to ask, "Who am I in this life?" Number 1. Distinguish the voice of the crowd from the call of your soul. Jung said, "The crowd is not just a group of people out there, but the invisible gravity of the collective unconscious. It exists in culture, in family, in social habits, even in the way you talk to yourself. It constantly whispers in your ear, 'This is the right way to live. Don't be too different. Don't stand out too much. Don't be too weird.' And gradually, you confuse what you truly want with what the world wants you to do. That's why the first step of individuation, the first step to becoming a person with inner weight, is to separate the voice of the crowd from the true voice within you. The voice of the crowd is always loud, noisy, familiar, and predictable. It's like a loudspeaker on the street, blaring from morning until night, repeating the same message. You don't have to think much to follow it, because everyone around you is doing the same. It brings a sense of safety. Like swimming in a river full of people, you only need to let go, and the current will carry you. But in exchange, you lose the most important thing, the right to be yourself. The call of the soul, on the other hand, is usually soft, small, and sometimes uncomfortable because it resembles no one else. It doesn't promise safety, but it asks questions that make you freeze. Do you truly want this? Does the life you're living really belong to you? This call doesn't force you, doesn't shout, but it is persistent. It returns on those sleepless nights, on those quiet mornings when you sit and stare without knowing why you feel empty. It appears when you feel a pang of jealousy toward someone else's life, not because you're mean-spirited, but because you see a forgotten part of yourself in them. Take a very ordinary example. You choose a major not because you love it, but because it's easy to get a job, or my parents say this is safer. You work in an environment where everyone is enduring, and you endure along. You love someone just because it's time. or because they're a good person. All those choices sound reasonable, sound social, sound practical, but quietly drain you. Because you're living up to the expectations of the crowd while completely going against the heartbeat of your soul. One way to recognize the voice of the crowd is to observe the feeling that comes with it. It always pulls you toward safety, toward stability, toward an acceptable image. The soul's call, in contrast, often comes with a strange type of fear. The fear of doing what's right, the fear of being too real, too free, of stepping out of the mold others have placed you in. Jung called that the fear of becoming oneself, and he believed there is no fear greater than that. Another example, some people spend their whole lives chasing achievements, status, and recognition, believing that's what everyone must do. But deep down, they long for a slower life, a freer life, a more creative life. Their soul's call is, live a life of depth, while the voice of the crowd says, slow down and you'll fall behind. As a result, they are successful but not happy. They live according to society's model, but against their true nature. They have everything except themselves. If you're brave enough, share in the comments below. Which voice of the crowd is controlling you the most right now? Which sentence have you heard so many times that you've mistaken it for your own voice? Writing it down is not for me to know, but for you to see clearly what has been leading you all this time. Sometimes, a single line you dare to admit can be the first step that pulls you back to your own soul. So, how do we distinguish these two voices? Jung suggested a very simple yet powerful method. Observe your body's reactions. The voice of the crowd makes you tense, rigid, and tired. The voice of the soul feels different. Even if it leads you towards something difficult, you still feel a deep sense of rightness, as if your body can breathe a little easier, your chest feels a bit more open, and your mind becomes quieter. That feeling is like returning to a familiar place you didn't realize you had left. The voice of the soul always points you toward lived experience. It doesn't ask, "What do others think of you?" It asks, "How do you feel living this life?" And Jung believed, only when you can separate these two voices can you begin the journey of individuation, the journey that turns you into the kind of person others naturally respect when you appear. Not because you're louder, more capable, or wealthier, but because you live in alignment with the inner gravity of your own soul. Number 2, accepting the feeling of being lost and different. Once you've learned to distinguish the voice of the crowd from the voice of your own soul, you'll step straight into a phase that almost everyone fears, the feeling of being lost. It is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. On the contrary, in Jung's language, it is the very first sign that you've just stepped out of the gravitational field of the collective unconscious. When the crowd no longer leads the way for you, you'll feel as if you're walking on ground that is both firm and soft, solid yet empty, safe yet full of silences you're not used to. Jung believed that every journey of individuation begins with separation. When you no longer live according to what everyone agrees is right, you begin to experience difference in its deepest sense. Not being different from others, but being different from your old self. And every phase of transformation creates a kind of in-between space, where you no longer belong to the old place, yet have not fully stepped into the new. Your own path will make you feel quiet, even though at times you may feel lonely. Many people mistake the feeling of being lost for something being wrong. In truth, it only means one thing. You've begun to live honestly. Pay attention to those moments when you feel you don't fit in with anyone. That's not a flaw. It's a sign that your soul is trying to peel itself away from being fused with the group. Like a leaf that clings to the branch at first because it needs safety. But to become a new shoot, it must eventually leave the old. The moment it falls is not failure. It is the natural result of no longer being in the old position. In reality, you've gone through this far more often than you think. For example, you begin to set boundaries with a friend group that has always seen you as the easygoing one. Suddenly, you feel more distant from them. They talk to each other more, invite each other more, and you are left with an empty seat. But that emptiness doesn't make you smaller. It's opening space for you to find the right people, the right environment, the right frequency for who you really are. The sense of being lost at this stage is just soil that hasn't been planted yet. Not barren land, but land waiting for new seeds. Or when you shift from a life of living up to expectations to living according to your own values, there will be moments of confusion. Why do I no longer enjoy the conversations I used to love? Why do the things that once excited me now just feel tiring? Those questions are not wrong. They're signs of a psyche that's growing. In Jungian depth psychology, the moment you feel yourself drifting away from what used to be familiar is exactly when the structure of the old ego begins to dissolve to make room for a more mature self. The feeling of being lost is a rite of passage. It's like stepping into a dim forest right after the sun has set. You're not used to the darkness, the smell of trees, the sound of insects. But after a while your eyes adjust, and you begin to see a path you thought wasn't there. Jung said the soul often leads us into dark places before leading us to the light, because only in the dark can you see the light that truly belongs to you. The most important thing in this phase is not to rush back to the crowd just because you're afraid of being alone. The crowd is always ready to welcome you back, but the price you pay is your own truth. When you return, you immediately feel that old sense of familiarity. But after a few weeks or months, the emptiness comes back. Because you're trying to squeeze yourself into clothes that have long since become too tight. Instead of trying to go back, try standing still. Stand inside the feeling of not belonging anywhere. Stand inside the strangeness when everything familiar suddenly feels loose. Stand inside the gentle sadness of knowing you are no longer who you once were. Every genuine journey of growth has such a stretch. The threshold Jung called the liminal zone, where the soul tests whether you have enough courage to go on. One way to get through this lost phase is to watch it the way you watch the weather. It comes, it goes, and you don't have to overreact. You just need to acknowledge, I'm in a transition phase. I'm a little lonely. That's normal. When you stop resisting, the feelings soften. When you stop panicking, you begin to see small signs pointing the way forward. Feeling different is not a burden. It's proof that you're shifting from being defined by the world to defining yourself. And when you become the kind of person no one else can replace, respect comes very naturally. Not because you're trying to be special, but because you have a kind of uniqueness no one can imitate. You are living your own life. Number 3, taking small steps even when no one is applauding. Then you'll come to an even quieter stretch of the road, when you no longer quite belong to the old place, but the new path still has no one standing on either side cheering you on. That is when it's just you, very small steps, and the choice of whether to keep walking. This is the silent trial of the individuation journey, because the crowd is used to rewarding what is visible, measurable, and easy to display. The soul, however, only rewards the small steps you take when no one is watching. In the depths of Jungian psychoanalysis, true growth doesn't happen in the dazzling moments, but in the quiet steps you repeat again and again, even when there's nothing impressive to show for it. Jung called this fidelity to the inner path. It means you choose to continue not because there's a reward, but because you know you're heading in the right direction. In real life, these small steps can be so simple, you might think they're meaningless. Spending 10 minutes reading something you truly want to explore, practicing a skill you know you need, setting a small but important boundary, listening to yourself before pleasing others, or simply daring to say, "I'm not sure, but I want to try." These actions don't attract applause, but they thicken the ego, the inner weight that keeps you from being easily swept away by the crowd. Imagine you're building a bridge to a new territory within yourself. Each small step is a brick. Others don't see the bridge, may not even know you're building it. They just see you doing a few random things. But you know exactly where each brick is taking you. One day, when you've walked halfway across the bridge, or almost reached the other side, others will finally see the shape of the path you chose. But strangely, by then, you no longer need their recognition. Because this bridge was never built with applause, it was built with honesty toward your inner world. Small steps have another power. They don't trigger fear. We only fear steps that are too big, too fast, too pressured. Small steps make your nervous system feel safe. It doesn't resist. It doesn't go into panic. In Jung's language, small steps allow the ego and the unconscious to gradually move in the same rhythm. No part of you is forced. No part is in revolt. And that's how real change happens, gently, irreversibly. A simple, everyday example. You want to leave a job that no longer fits. You can't quit right away, but you can spend 30 minutes each evening learning a new skill, or rewriting your CV, or simply observing what truly excites you. Each small step is like opening a crack for light to slip into a dark room. And at some point, there will be enough light for you to see the way out. Or you want to live more authentically in your relationships. You don't have to change everything in one day. You only need to start with very small moments, saying what you really think instead of what others want to hear, revealing the truth instead of dodging it, saying no to what exhausts you instead of forcing a polite yes. Every time you do that, you lay another brick on the bridge leading you out of the crowd. In Jung's comparison, the individuation journey is like mining ore. It takes time, it's tedious, it's dirty, and no one stands around watching. But deep beneath the rough rock lies pure gold, your true essence. No one gives a medal to the person who keeps striking the earth. But if you stop halfway, you'll always have only stone. Small steps are the patient blows that bring you closer to your own treasure. Taking small steps is also how you build trust in yourself in a lasting way. Not the kind of trust inflated by praise or quick success, but the kind forged each time you keep a promise to yourself. No one sees that you're trying, but you know. No one understands the path you've chosen, but you do. This kind of trust cannot be taken away by others, nor shattered by failure. It's quiet, but it's the foundation of the respect others will later have for you. One of Jung's distinctive points is that he never said, "Become the strongest person." He said, "I don't aspire to be a good man, I aspire to be a whole man." And the real person is formed through small, silent, consistent choices. The very thing the crowd does not do, because the crowd needs quick results to flaunt, obvious progress to compare. But you, if you follow the inner path, are progressing in silence. Taking small steps when no one cares is the most powerful training for your inner strength. It teaches you to love the process more than the outcome. It teaches you to stand firm when no one stands behind you. It teaches you to keep going when no one says, "Keep it up." It is the silent exam Jung said every soul must pass to be self-born, and not merely born out of the crowd. Rule 3. Mastering the persona. It is precisely when you've begun to know who you are that you start seeing more clearly who you are trying to appear to be. And from there, the journey moves into its next phase, mastering the persona, so you can step into the world not in a suit of armor, but in the deepest honesty of your being. Number 1. What is the persona? In Jung's system of depth psychology, persona is one of the most misunderstood concepts, yet it is also one of the most crucial pieces that determine whether you are truly living as yourself or merely playing a role that society expects. Jung called the persona the social mask, the outer layer each of us wears when we step into the world, to fit in, to be accepted, to avoid being seen as strange or out of line with common norms. But what few people realize is this: the persona is not the enemy. It only becomes an enemy when you mistake it for your true self. The persona is born from a need for psychological survival. A child learns early that to be loved, they must be good. To be praised, they must be capable. To be heard, they must not bother anyone. As we grow up, each environment creates a different version of our persona. At work, you become the professional one. With friends, you become the funny one. In the family, you play the dutiful child. Every role serves a function. The problem only begins when you lose the ability to take the mask off and start believing that these roles are your essence. Jung once said, "One could say, with a little exaggeration, that the persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself as well as others think one is." It is like a light suit of armor you put on when stepping onto the social battlefield. It helps you navigate situations more smoothly, interact more easily, and protect the vulnerable parts within. But if you wear it all the time, even when you're alone, the skin of your soul will start to suffocate. A familiar example. Some people always show up as positive, always cheerful, always fine, to the point that they themselves believe they are genuinely strong and optimistic. But at night, when they're alone, they feel empty and don't understand why. It's because they're using the persona of the cheerful one to cover up an internal civil war. Real emotions are locked backstage, while the persona stands on stage performing a smooth, pleasant play for the world to see. Eventually, they themselves forget which voice is real and which is a line written for the role. In modern life, the persona becomes even more sophisticated because of social media. We don't just have a persona in real life, we also have a meticulously curated persona online, a polished version of ourselves, knowing just the right words, having a neat life, always with a good story to tell. The more we perform, the more we stick to that mask, to the point that when we meet ourselves again in silence, we feel a painful gap. Why am I not as radiant as my persona? Many people are unhappy, not because their real life is terrible, but because they're comparing their actual self with their edited self. Jung described the persona as a bridge between the inner world and the outer world. If you use this bridge correctly, you can communicate, work, love, and connect without having to expose the softest parts of your inner self all at once. But if you turn the bridge into a permanent house, you'll live your whole life on a structure built from society's expectations, not from the truth inside you. The most dangerous thing about identifying with the persona is that you lose your life force. You start to feel inexplicably tired, as if you're carrying an invisible burden. Every conversation requires you to act in character. Every meeting demands that you match the image you've created. Every gesture becomes the movement of an actor, not a human being. And the soul, what Jung calls the center of individuation, is reduced to a spectator watching you perform your own life. But here is the crucial point. You don't have to destroy the persona. You just need to learn when you're wearing it, when to put it down, and when the persona is merely shielding a deeper fear inside you. The truth is, those who have a deep magnetism, a presence that makes others trust and respect them, are not the ones who discard the persona entirely. They are the ones who handle the persona as a tool instead of being handled by it like a puppet. They know how to speak appropriately, behave at the right moments, but when they are alone, they do not lose touch with the soul underneath. Their persona is clothing, not skin. Number 2. Stepping out of the role. If in the previous part you've understood that the persona is the mask that helps us survive in the world, then the next step is a far more subtle and difficult journey, stepping out of the role when it's no longer a tool for living, but has turned into a layer of dust covering your soul. Stepping out of the role doesn't mean rejecting all social norms or living impulsively without thought. It simply means something both simple and profound. You grant yourself the right to be your real self, even when no one is applauding. This journey begins the moment you notice where you have to strain yourself the most. Everyone has their own stages, where they speak louder than usual, smile brighter than usual, act more positive than usual, or colder than usual. Not because we're fake or malicious, but because those environments make us believe that only a certain version of us will be accepted. When you start asking, "Why do I have to try so hard in this setting?" you're quietly peeling off the first layer of the mask. From there, you'll realize that stepping out of the role doesn't happen through grand gestures, but through very small truths you dare to speak. The first time you refuse a request you don't want to fulfill. The first time you dare to admit, "I'm tired today," instead of smiling and saying, "I'm fine." The first time, you don't force yourself to be funny just to diffuse the tension. These small truths don't shock anyone, but they gently tap the persona inside you like the first blows breaking an old wall. If there's a role you unconsciously slip into every time you walk into a room, try whispering it down below in the comments. Just a word, an image, a feeling. See if, when you write it out, it still has as much power over you as before. Sometimes a single small line is enough to begin freeing a part of you that you've hidden for far too long. And then you'll learn to pause for a beat before your old reflexes jump in. The role always wants to rush onto the stage ahead of you. The role of the nice one, the strong one, the patient one. But just one intentional pause to breathe is already you stepping out of the persona's autopilot. The moment you dare to say, "I'll think about it," instead of immediately saying yes. The moment you keep your face natural instead of forcing a polite smile. The moment you state clearly what you want without circling it. Those are the moments you choose your true self instead of the familiar role. Slowly, you'll begin to hear your real voice again. A voice that is calm but weighty. When you say, "I'm not comfortable with that," you're not becoming difficult, you're becoming real. When you say, "I'm not sure," you're not becoming weak, you're becoming human. When you dare to express your true needs, you're not just removing part of the mask, you're also allowing your inner world to breathe. From within, your real feelings will start to come out. This is the hardest part, because most roles are built to shield feelings that have been tightly hidden. False strength covers the fear of being hurt. Excessive humor covers a deep loneliness. Forced positivity covers a despair that has never been allowed to be spoken. When you dare to sit with your real emotions, the persona will no longer have a reason to stay in control. Persona feeds on denial. Your true self grows on honesty. Then another shift will happen. You begin to avoid conversations that force you into a role. Not because you hate people, but because your body knows that maintaining those performances will pull you farther away from yourself. You'll find yourself naturally gravitating toward people around whom you don't have to try. With them, you don't need to be interesting, accomplished, or clever. You just need to be you. Those relationships are like sacred ground where the soul can take off its shoes and walk as if at home. Along with that, you'll also start allowing yourself to be imperfect. And this matters more than you think. Persona survives on perfection, but the soul does not. The soul grows through the moments you admit you are still unfinished, still clumsy, still afraid. When you permit yourself to be imperfect, the persona loses its reason to dominate, and the true self is allowed to grow. And finally, stepping out of the role is only complete when you can be alone without performing for yourself. Many people only wear masks in front of the world, but some wear masks even when they're alone in a room. They force themselves to stay busy so they won't feel empty. They force themselves to do something so they feel valuable. They force themselves to seem okay even when no one is watching. Letting go of the role means accepting this stillness, sitting down, not performing for anyone, not performing for yourself, just you and your breath. This is the moment the persona truly dissolves because it no longer has an audience. Stepping out of the role doesn't turn you into someone else. It brings you back to who you once were, before someone told you who you should become. And when you're brave enough to take off the mask, the next step is just as important. Learning to use the persona as a tool, not as destiny, so you can both live true to yourself and interact wisely with the world. Number 3. Keeping your inner world consistent with how you show up. This is where most people fail because they think simply dropping the mask is enough. But Jung understood very clearly, no one can move through life completely naked. You still have to work, communicate, express yourself, collaborate, and sometimes maintain a certain image so the world can understand you more easily. The issue is not whether you have a mask or not. The issue is whether the mask betrays your soul. This consistency is not rigidity. It is harmony between inner and outer, like a musical instrument tuned just right. The strings are not so tight they snap, nor so loose they buzz. When your inner world and your persona are in sync, you step into the world without having to overexert yourself or shrink back. You show up as you truly feel, and that creates a kind of invisible strength that others can sense immediately. Start with something simple. When you say what you truly believe, your body aligns, your voice steadies, your gaze is clearer, your posture feels natural. When you say something your heart doesn't agree with, no matter how polished your words are, the body will betray you. Your eyes drift, your voice tilts, your shoulders tense slightly. Others may not consciously notice it, but they feel it with their intuition. This is why some people speak very well, very intelligently, very politely, yet still fail to command respect. What they say doesn't match what they feel. That mismatch erodes the weight of their presence. Consistency between inside and outside begins with respecting your true feelings the moment they arise. If you're not happy, don't force a smile. If you're not ready, don't force yourself to appear confident. If you don't understand, don't pretend to be insightful. Every time you betray your own feelings, you add another layer of misalignment between your soul and your persona. And then you feel inexplicably exhausted, not because life is too hard, but because you're straining to maintain an image that is not yours. But staying consistent doesn't mean you should behave harshly or speak in a raw way that wounds others. An honest inner life doesn't require a sharp outer shell. What you need is to learn how to translate the language of your inner world into outer behavior without distorting its essence. For example, instead of bottling up your irritation until you explode, you can say, "The way this is being said makes me uncomfortable. Can we adjust it?" Instead of pretending you know everything, you can say, "I need more time to understand." Instead of forcing enthusiasm for things that aren't yours, you can say, "I respect that, but it's not for me." This is how you keep the truth in your heart while maintaining the tact needed to live in the world. One of the most important steps to maintain this consistency is to make your persona transparent. That means the person in front of you can see your real self through the social mask. Not that you reveal everything, but that they feel you're not fake. They feel a genuine quality in the way you look at them, talk to them, and show up. The interesting thing is, when your inner world and outer appearance are aligned, you no longer waste energy keeping up the act. The constant fatigue fades. You don't have to obsess over what others think. You don't have to monitor every word you say. You don't even feel the pressure to impress, because you're no longer running away from yourself. And once you stop running, your life force shifts noticeably. Deeper, steadier, stronger. Picture someone walking into a room with a calm inner state. They simply are themselves. That kind of person has a very particular gravity. They naturally make others adjust their attitude, behave more respectfully, and raise their level of regard. Not because they intimidate anyone, but because they are consistent. Jung called this the power of wholeness, a form of inner authority no performance can create. The hardest part of consistency is not how you act in front of others, but how you act when no one is watching. You keep your promises to yourself. You don't lie to your own heart. You don't choose the easy path just because it's easy. And you don't live by outward standards while letting your inner soul slowly wither. When you are truthful, even in your own private darkness, then when you step into the light, you won't have to act a single extra moment. And once you reach this point, the persona becomes an ally, no longer a shell. It doesn't whitewash or hide your essence. It simply becomes the vehicle that carries your soul into the world in the most understandable form. Rule 4. Connecting with the self. When you begin to master the persona and no longer live according to your mask, a new inner space opens up. That space is so quiet that you can start to hear the subtle voices the persona used to drown out. And it's precisely in that moment that you can feel very clearly. It's time to return to the source, to connect with the self, the deepest center of your being. From here on, the journey is no longer about how you look in the eyes of others, but about whether you are honest with yourself. If what you're feeling and hearing so far shows you even a faint reflection of your own inner life, I'd be truly grateful if you could take a second to like and subscribe. Not to chase numbers, but so I know these sharings are genuinely reaching someone who is walking this path too. Number 1. Building the habit of inner dialogue through dreams, writing and contemplation. Stepping into the journey of connecting with the self is not like learning a new skill or picking up an interesting philosophy. It is more like walking into your own house, the one you've lived in your whole life, but never really turned the lights on to see every hidden corner. Jung believed the self is always whispering, always guiding, always sending signals, but modern people are too noisy, too busy, too scattered to hear it. That's why he encouraged inner dialogue as a kind of life ritual, a way not only to listen, but to learn the language of the depths of the soul, dreams, writing, and contemplation. Inner dialogue is not just talking to yourself in the style of "what should I do now?" That's the language of the head. The self doesn't use that language. The self speaks in symbols, in images, in sensations, in intuitions, in fragments that seem meaningless but carry a truth your conscious mind cannot yet name. That's why the doors into the self always lie in states where the logical mind temporarily steps back, in dreams, in free writing, and in quiet moments of contemplation. The first doorway is dreams. Jung devoted his whole life to studying dreams, not because they are interesting, but because they are the natural language of the self. When you sleep, the persona disappears. The shadow steps out. The inner world comes into view, and the self begins to speak. But dreams never speak in complete sentences. They speak in strange images, illogical situations, and familiar yet unfamiliar feelings. This is why many people dismiss dreams as the brain taking out the trash. In reality, dreams are letters from the self. You just don't know how to read them yet. The most important practice is to write your dreams down as soon as you wake up. Don't analyze. Don't try to interpret. Just record. A dark road? Write it down. A wild animal? Write it down. An old friend who appears and then vanishes? Write it down. The magic lies in the fact that you will begin to notice certain symbols repeating, and that's not random. That is the self using a language to point you toward what you've been avoiding or what you've been missing. When a symbol appears many times, it means the self is calling you. Someone once shared that they kept dreaming of standing in front of a vast sea, but never daring to step into the water. They always stopped at the shore. After a few months of recording, they realized that in their dreams, water represented repressed emotions. The larger the sea, the deeper the emotions. Their refusal to step into the water showed how they were avoiding facing long-ignored sadness, fear, and wounds. Through the dream, they understood that the self was urging them to return and heal themselves. The second doorway is writing, not writing beautifully and not writing for anyone else to read. Jung called this creative dialogue with the unconscious. When you write without editing, without controlling, without trying to sound clever, the words will lead you back to the places you've tried to forget. Sometimes you write a simple sentence like, "I feel," and a word appears that surprises you. I feel stuck. I feel unseen. I feel like I'm pretending. Those words are not chosen by the head. They rise from beneath the surface. When you write for 10 to 15 minutes straight without stopping, your consciousness gets tired and makes way for the real feelings. You begin to say things you've never told anyone, and never even told yourself when fully awake. Many people, the first time they write like this, end up in tears, not because of pain, but because they are finally hearing a voice they've ignored for years. Writing is how you bring the self down to earth and give it space to speak in words. The third doorway is contemplation, not proper meditation and not a rigid technique. Contemplation, in Jung's spirit, simply means allowing yourself to settle enough that your inner world can show up without being pushed away. Try sitting for 5 minutes in silence, without trying to chase thoughts away, without trying to calm the mind. Just observe. If worry appears, notice it. If an old memory surfaces, let it surface. If you feel a heaviness in your chest, acknowledge it without judging. Contemplation means not interfering. When you are quiet enough, the self will send signals in the form of sensations, a faint warmth, a thought drifting by like wind, a nameless sadness, a hidden longing you've never dared to touch. You don't need to understand everything immediately. You just need to notice, because noticing is the first gesture of connection. Dreams, writing, and contemplation together form a circle of inner dialogue. Dreams bring up the symbols. Writing brings those symbols into language. Contemplation lets you feel the symbols with your body and soul. When these three practices are sustained regularly, the scattered pieces of your inner world begin to connect. You start to understand yourself in ways you never did before. You recognize what you truly want, what you truly fear, what you truly lack. You no longer need to hunt for answers outside, because the self is bringing them up from within. What matters is this. Inner dialogue is not about finding the right answer. The goal is not for you to become extraordinary or enlightened. The goal is to hear your own voice again, the voice that the noise of life once drowned out. When the self begins to speak, you won't suddenly feel powerful. You'll feel clearer. And that clarity is the true foundation of inner strength. That's why Jung said, "One who looks outside dreams. One who looks inside awakens." And to reach that deeper place, you must learn to listen with a sense that does not lie in the head. This will be a crucial next step in your journey of connecting with the self. Number 2, feeling the body. Inner dialogues become vague if they happen only in the mind. The self doesn't just speak in images or words, it also whispers very concretely through every breath, every tight spot, every weight in your body. Jung once said the unconscious does not reside only in the mind. It lives in the heartbeat, in the breath, in the knot in your stomach, in the chill running down your spine when you face the truth. In other words, the self often speaks to you through the body before it uses dreams or images. But most of us have lost the ability to hear it, because we live almost entirely in our heads. Feeling the body is not some distant spiritual exercise, and it is definitely not about trying to relax. It is about learning to see the body as a message. A constriction in the chest may be the fear of abandonment. Tension in the shoulders may be the weight of responsibilities you're trying to carry for others. That slight twist in your gut when you stand in front of someone may be a warning that they're not safe. Old wounds, repressed memories, unresolved shadow material, all of them leave traces in the body. That's why connecting with the self always begins by returning to exactly where you are. This body, this moment, right here. The first practice is to identify the raw sensations in your body, without analysis, without explanation, without interpretation. If you're anxious, ask your body, where does anxiety live? Is it in the chest, the stomach, the throat? Some people feel anxiety in the chest and describe it as a stone pressing down. Some feel it in the throat, like words being strangled. Some feel it in the lower belly, like being pulled into a void. Each place carries a different message. The self doesn't use words. The self uses sensations. You just need to listen. The second practice is to stay with that sensation without trying to change it. This is the hardest step because we are used to responding in only two ways: avoidance or analysis. When discomfort arises, you want to reach for your phone, turn on music, eat something, scroll social media, work, clean the house, anything not to feel. But the self only speaks when you're willing to stop. Try placing your hand over the spot that feels tense. Not to soothe it, but to be present with it. It sounds small, but it's an act of turning back toward yourself instead of running away. Some sensations soften simply because you finally look them in the eye. The third practice is to listen to the subtle shifts in your body when you tell the truth. One fascinating thing is that the body reacts strongly when you're being honest, and just as strongly when you say something that isn't true for you. When you say something you don't believe, you may feel a slight constriction in your throat, a warm flush in your face, or a little wobble in your gut. When you speak what you truly feel, your body relaxes noticeably, your shoulders drop, your breath deepens, your eyes open wider. This is how the self lets you know what your truth is. You don't always have to interpret it correctly. The body points the way long before the mind catches up. The fourth practice is using the breath to reconnect with the self. Breath is not just biology. It is the bridge between conscious and unconscious. When you breathe into your belly, not just your chest, the body enters a state of safety, the nervous system settles, and the self's signals grow clearer. Try a simple technique. Place a hand on your stomach. Inhale slowly, as if you're opening a door within. The deeper the breath goes, the more you return to what Jung called the center, the place where you are no longer dragged around by anxiety, anger, or social expectations. Ultimately, feeling the body is learning to love it as a doorway to the self. When you stop treating the body as a machine to be used and start seeing it as an ally, it will send much clearer signals. When you run from your emotions, the body stores them in muscle and tissue. When you refuse yourself rest, the body creates illness to force you to stop. Feeling the body doesn't turn you into someone else. It simply brings you back to your own center, where the self has been sitting all along, quiet but awake. And once you know how to hear the self through your body, you'll be ready for the next step. Learning to follow your intuition, the compass the self placed deep inside you long ago. Number 3. Standing on the side of your own intuition. Once you've learned to listen to your dreams, to write, to contemplate, and to feel your body, the doorway to the self is more open than ever. But to actually step through it, you need something more important. Enough courage to stand on the side of your own intuition, even when the whole world may not stand with you. Jung always believed that intuition is one of the purest channels the self uses to send its messages. It is not loud. It does not argue. It simply whispers, "Not yet. Something is off there. This person isn't right." But to hear and follow that whisper, you must be still enough and honest enough with yourself. Intuition is not the same as impulsive instinct. It does not push you to react immediately, nor is it fantasy or anxiety wearing a mask. Intuition is like a dim light shining at the bottom of the water. Look closely and you'll see it. Glance and you'll miss it. It appears as a sensation, an image, a wordless knowing. So how do you know it's true intuition? The simplest way is to look at the quality of the feeling, not its intensity. Anxiety is very noisy. Intuition is very quiet. The need to control makes you tense. Intuition makes you clearer. This is the crucial distinction. Intuition does not shove you, it leads you. And that leading usually appears as a gentle, steady sense of certainty, not a powerful jolt. Imagine you're standing before two choices. Both seem reasonable. Both have good arguments behind them. But your body opens when you think of option A and constricts when you think of option B. That isn't a random reaction. That is the self adjusting your inner compass. Listening to intuition means trusting that the body knows something the mind hasn't yet had time to analyze. Neuroscience today confirms this. Before you think, your nervous system has already read the danger or opportunity. Jung simply described this in symbolic language 100 years ago. To stand on the side of your intuition, the first practice is to give it space to appear. Many people say, "I don't have any intuition." That's not true. They do have intuition, they just never give themselves a few minutes to listen to it. When you make decisions in haste, in noise, in fear of missing out, in comparison, in exhaustion, you're deciding with the persona and the ego, not with the self. Try creating one small gap in your day. 10 minutes with your phone off, your hand on your heart, taking one deep breath. In that quiet pocket, intuition finally has a chance to step forward. The second practice, test your intuition with a simple question. How does this make me feel? If something is right, your breath deepens, your body feels lighter. That's a sign you're facing the right direction. If you tighten up, your body contracts, your breathing shortens, your eyes narrow. That's a sign you should step back. Opening and contracting do not tell you whether something is easy or hard. Some right paths are very hard. Some wrong paths are very easy. Intuition doesn't care about ease. It cares about rightness. And the body always knows the difference. The third practice, dare to act on your intuition in small things. Don't wait for intuition to guide you through huge life decisions from the start. Begin with the simple. You feel you need a 5-minute break? Take it. Do you feel you don't resonate with someone's energy when you first meet them? Keep some distance. You feel uneasy about agreeing to help with something? Say no. Every time you follow your intuition in small matters, you're building trust with the self. And one day, when you stand before a major decision, changing career direction, leaving a relationship, moving house, starting anew, the voice of intuition will be much clearer because you've trained it in advance. The fourth practice: don't force your intuition to be reasonable. This is where most people lose it. When intuition says, "Don't go that way," the mind immediately asks, "Why?" When intuition says, "There's something off about this person," you quickly dismiss it. "I'm just being paranoid." The intellect is very good at bending truth to fit fear. Intuition doesn't bend anything. And to follow it, you need to accept that sometimes you won't fully understand why right away. The fifth practice: write down the times your intuition was right. When you sense something and it later happens, record it. One line is enough. A whole page is fine. This is how you build faith in the self. We live in a society that worships rationality, so it's easy to deny these subtle signals. Writing them down is how you remind yourself that intuition is not some random feeling. It is data from the deep unconscious, from a layer that sees far more than your thinking mind can imagine. Standing on the side of your intuition means you choose to walk with the self, not with fear. It means you place your trust in the deepest part of you, the part that has lived through many lifetimes of symbols, many layers of the collective unconscious, many spiritual experiences the small ego cannot comprehend. And when you live this way, you're no longer tossed around by other people's words, no longer shaken by outside opinions, no longer suspicious of your own soul. You become someone whose path is clear, not because the world shines a light on it, but because a light has begun to shine from within. Rule 5. Reconciling ANIMA/ANIMUS to become a whole. Once you've touched the self and begun to live from your true center, you'll notice your inner world is no longer the chaos it once was. Everything becomes clearer, quieter, more ordered. At that point, you'll start to discover a subtler layer waiting beneath. The inner masculine-feminine energies Jung called ANIMA and ANIMUS. And to become a powerful whole, you don't just need to connect with the self, you must also reconcile these two opposing forces. Number 1. Facing ANIMA/ANIMUS. When your journey inward has brought you close to the self, Jung believed you would encounter one of the most invisible yet decisive forces in the psychic life. Anima, the feminine aspect in a man, and animus, the masculine aspect in a woman. This is not about gender. It's not about surface personality traits. Anima and animus are energy patterns we unconsciously carry within us, parts most people never truly look at, yet they shape how we love, how we get angry, how we draw people close, and how we push them away. Jung called anima/animus the gateway to the self, because if you do not face these two forces, you'll keep repeating one particular kind of imbalance in every relationship without understanding why. Men often think of themselves as rational, strong, and not very emotional. But deep in their unconscious, there is always a soft, sensitive, vulnerable part, which is the anima. Women often think of themselves as emotional, gentle, and sensitive. But deep inside, there is always a rational, decisive, orienting part, that is the animus. When these opposite energies are not acknowledged, they don't disappear. They rise in distorted forms: dependency, self-doubt, nameless anger, or idealizing others to the point of losing oneself. Facing anima/animus is not about becoming someone else, but about becoming complete. The first step in facing anima/animus is realizing that what you hate most in others is often what you're rejecting in yourself. A man who is furious at others' weakness is often a man who cannot bear to touch his own vulnerability. A woman who resents others' firmness or coldness is often someone who has never allowed herself to be straightforwardly strong. Anima/animus always reflects through the person in front of you. They become the big mirror that magnifies your unconscious fears. So the first step in confronting these opposing forces is to observe your intense reactions to specific people. Who makes you irrationally irritated? Who makes you intensely moved for no clear reason? Both are signals that anima/animus is asking to be seen. You can pause here for a few seconds, take a slow breath, and let whatever images, faces, or feelings just came up settle a little. Sometimes that brief pause is exactly when the unconscious cracks the door open to show you something you've always moved too fast to notice. The second step is listening to the silent dialogue within you. Facing the anima means a man starts to ask himself, what does the sensitive part of me want to say? How am I treating this softness? Am I giving it any room to live? Facing the animus means a woman dares to look at the questions. Where is the decisive part of me being suppressed? Do I dare stand up for myself? Do I permit myself to want what I want? When you ask these questions, the unconscious begins to open. A small inner voice, the one you've been shutting down for years, will begin to speak. Another practical way to face anima/animus is to look at your patterns in love. Men unconsciously dominated by anima often love in a highly idealized way, loving the image they've created rather than the actual person. When anima is too strong and unrecognized, men easily fall into feelings of lack, neediness, dependence, or end up chasing relationships that cost them their sense of self. Conversely, women unconsciously driven by animus are often drawn to relationships where they must save, teach, direct, or become overly controlling. Every time you repeat the same emotional pattern, it is anima/animus waving at you, asking you to look again. Without the ability to face these two forces, you'll be the one who keeps entering different relationships that somehow hurt in the same way. Facing anima/animus also means learning to speak with the parts of yourself you've avoided. A man can sit down and write a simple line. What does the feminine part of me need right now? And he may be surprised by the answers that appear. I'm tired. I want to tell the truth. I want to be weak without being despised. I want to slow down. A woman can ask her animus, what does the strong part of me need? And she may hear, I want to decide. I want to protect myself. I want to stop asking other people for permission to live my life. This is not fantasy. This is a real dialogue between you and your inner opposite, the part the self protects, but the persona hides. The final and most important practice is to let these two parts live together in one body without hostility. Men do not become weaker when they embrace the anima. They become deeper, subtler, more creative, more secure in themselves. Women do not become harsher when they integrate the animus. They become clearer, more grounded, more self-directed. When these two forces are balanced, you no longer have to hunt for your other half outside to fill what's missing inside. You enter love not to be completed, but because you are already complete. Facing anima/animus is not a one-time task. It is a lifelong journey. But once you begin, the self stops feeling vague. You understand why you react the way you do. You see why you repeat the same patterns. You recognize which part of you has been neglected. And most importantly, you start to see others with eyes of understanding, not idealizing, not judging, because you've already seen those hidden parts in yourself. And that becomes the foundation for the next step, learning to harmonize all your inner parts so you can become a whole human being, undivided, no longer at war with yourself. Number 2. Integrating reason and emotion. For Jung, a mature soul is neither someone purely rational nor someone wildly emotional, but someone who knows how to merge these two opposing forces into a single unified current. When reason dominates too strongly, life becomes dry, calculating, strangled by the need to control. When emotion is too strong, you're swept into a spiral of reactions, impulsiveness, and exhaustion. The self only truly emerges when these two parts look at each other, listen to each other, and walk side by side. The first step in integrating reason and emotion is to stop treating emotion as something annoying or irrational. Emotion is not the enemy of logic. It is a message from the unconscious. Fear is not always meaningless. It can be a warning. Sadness is not weakness. It can be a sign that you've lost connection with something important. Anger is not inherently bad. It can be a reminder that your boundaries are being crossed. When you no longer fight your emotions, you can let reason help you understand and transform them. If instead you force emotions down to the bottom, they will find their way back up in far more destructive forms. The simplest yet most powerful practice to connect these two forces is to name the emotion before you analyze the situation. When something happens, don't start with, "Why did this happen?" Start with, "What am I feeling?" That one short question lifts the emotion out of the chaos and places it somewhere you can look at directly. Once emotion is named, reason finally has space to function without being dragged around by impulses. Modern psychology shows that merely labeling an emotion reduces activation in the brain's stress circuits and allows the rational parts to work more clearly. Jung understood this long ago. Bringing feelings into consciousness is the key to entering the realm of the self. The second practice is to let emotion provide the goal and reason build the path. Every meaningful path begins with a feeling. You feel interested, you feel drawn, you feel called to do something. But to turn that feeling into reality, you need a reason to craft the structure. What comes first? What comes next? What needs to be prepared? If you only have reason, you may be on the right path, but have no idea why you're walking it. When you combine both, life becomes not only effective, but soulful. A powerful exercise for this is a 2-column map. One column titled, "I feel," the other, "I need." Emotion tells you where you are. Needs, identified by reason, tell you where you should go. For example, I feel overlooked. I need to reset my boundaries. I feel exhausted. I need to reorganize my schedule. I feel anxious. I need more preparation before moving forward. When you start to notice the rhythm between feelings and needs, you're stepping into the territory where the self is guiding. The next practice is to set aside a few minutes each day to harmonize these two streams of energy through the body. Sit quietly, place your hand on your belly, breathe deeply, and ask, what feeling is present in me right now? Then let the body answer with a sensation. Heavy, light, open, tight, empty, full. After that, ask, what do I need to move forward? At that point, it's no longer the mind straining to think, nor emotion dragging you around. It's the integration. Emotion provides the signal, reason interprets it, and the body confirms what's true. Those 3 points form the axis of the self. Once you've grown accustomed to integrating reason and emotion, you'll notice something strange, but deeply true. The most right decisions in your life always contain both elements at the same time. Emotion tells you this is your direction, and reason says, if you go this way, you'll be safe and steady. If you only have emotion, you'll rush in head first. If you only have reason, you'll stay frozen. But with both, you move forward without losing yourself. That is the movement of the self. And the most beautiful part of this journey is that once you've integrated reason and emotion, you're no longer controlled by either. You're no longer pulled by feelings like a panicked child. Nor are you dragged into someone else's rigid framework by logic. You can feel without drowning. You can think without going numb. You become someone who both knows and feels. The kind of person Jung believed can live a life that is deep, clear, and truly self-directed. Rule 6. Withdrawing projections. Interestingly, as your inner world becomes more whole, you begin to see the outer world with different eyes. Things that once made you angry now make you curious. People who once hurt you become strange mirrors, reflecting something of yourself you've never truly seen. And in that very moment, you begin to perceive a truth you had never noticed before. Many of the things you thought belonged to other people are actually yours. From here, the journey moves into its deepest region, the place where you take full responsibility for your inner world. Number 1. Respecting others as separate subjects. At this stage of the journey, Jung brings us to one of the most crucial principles of maturity, withdrawing projection. And the first step is learning to see others as independent subjects, not as screens onto which you hang your fears, expectations, or wounds. Only when you respect another person as their own universe can you truly start to see them and free yourself from the psychological illusions you've created. We often believe we're loving someone, hating someone, or feeling disappointed in someone. But the deeper truth is this: much of what we feel is not directed at the actual person in front of us, but at the version of them our unconscious has constructed. A cold person hurts us not simply because they are cold, but because they touch an old memory of abandonment. A confident person irritates us not because they're arrogant, but because they awaken the insecurity we've buried. Someone who loves us too much frightens us because we don't yet trust that we are worthy of such love. Withdrawing projections means seeing this truth, and respecting others as separate subjects means you no longer use them to continue your unconscious story. Imagine you're looking at someone through a fogged mirror. Everything they do is tinted by the color of that glass. If you carry a fear of betrayal, you'll see every ambiguous gesture as a sign of betrayal. If you fear you are not enough, you'll interpret every moment of indifference as proof that you're inadequate. If you lack trust, you'll read every silence as rejection. Respecting others as separate subjects means daring to put that mirror down. It means not plastering your own story onto them. One of the simplest ways to practice this is to change the questions you ask yourself. Instead of, "Are they trying to hurt me?" ask, "Is it possible that what they're doing has nothing to do with me?" Instead of, "Why did they change?" ask, "Is it possible they're going through their own journey that I know nothing about?" When you shift the question from "about me" to "about them," you begin to step back from your unconscious interpretations. This brings a profound sense of relief because you realize not everything revolves around you. Not everyone acts to challenge or confirm your fears. People live their own lives with their own histories, wounds, and needs. You might want someone's quiet nature to become more enthusiastic so it matches you. You might want someone's logic to soften so it fits your emotional style. You might want someone's decisiveness to tone down so you don't feel overshadowed. But when you do that, you're asking them to play a character in your movie rather than allowing them to be who they truly are. Respect means seeing them in their real structure, not forcing them into a role you've written. Remember what Jung said about projection. Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. Other people are not your map. They are their own territory. And when you enter that territory with respect, interactions become clearer, less dramatic, less draining. In addition, you must learn to listen without constant interpretation. This is the hardest thing for those who are used to living by projection. When others are silent, you interpret. When they give short replies, you interpret. When they sigh, you interpret again. But respecting others means accepting that you cannot read them completely. You are not them. You have not lived their history. You do not inhabit their mind. Try hearing what they say just as it is. No extra subtitles. No added tone they didn't use. No imagined feelings they didn't express. The moment you stop layering meanings onto their words, psychological relief appears almost immediately. Finally, respecting others as separate subjects also means respecting their right not to meet your expectations. This is where many people hurt the most. You want them to understand you. They may not. You want them to choose you. They may not. You want them to act in the way you consider reasonable. They may have a different logic. When you respect that independence, you no longer feel abandoned every time they fail to meet your hopes. You simply see the truth. They are who they are, and you are who you are. No one exists to fill the cracks in anyone else. When you see others as separate worlds, you step into a form of love that Jung called mature love. No clinging, no judgment, no forcing your ego onto the other. Respecting them is how you set them free. And it is also how you free yourself from the tragedies created by your own projections. Number 2. Practicing clear emotional expression. But to truly withdraw projections, respecting others as separate worlds is not enough. You also need to learn a skill that seems simple, but is incredibly difficult. Clearly stating what is happening inside you. This is a tremendously powerful skill, yet very few people are ever taught it. We are very good at talking about other people's behavior, but when it comes to speaking about our own true feelings, we become awkward, evasive, or distort them. And it is precisely this vagueness that allows projection to keep operating quietly in the background, turning every conversation into a battle between wounded children rather than an exchange between mature adults. Speaking your feelings clearly is not the same as dumping your emotions. It is not shouting, crying, or using words as weapons to attack the other person. Nor is it demanding that they change so you can feel better. Speaking your feelings clearly means you stand in your own position without invading, accusing, or judging, and simply describe honestly what is happening inside you. When you do this, you pull your emotions up from the unconscious into the light of awareness. In that very moment, you are already withdrawing projection. The first practice in speaking your emotions clearly is separating the feeling from the story you tell yourself. We usually say things like, "You make me furious," "You make me feel abandoned." But that is not emotion, that is an accusation. An accusation only puts the other person on the defensive while pushing you deeper into your own projections. Try changing it to, "I'm feeling angry," "I'm feeling insecure," "I'm feeling hurt." When you speak this way, you no longer treat your feelings as the direct result of the other person's actions, but as signals arising from within you. A sentence that's simple is already a step toward maturity. The second practice is to identify the root feeling, not just the surface one. When you're angry, you might think you're angry because someone said something wrong. But if you pause for a few seconds, you might notice that beneath that anger is a feeling of being disrespected. Beneath that feeling of being disrespected is the fear of not being good enough. And beneath that fear lies the memory of a child who tried so hard to prove their worth and never really felt seen. If you only talk about the anger, the conversation will go nowhere. But if you say, "I'm feeling disrespected, and this is touching an old fear in me," you're bringing the story back to where it truly belongs. You are no longer using the person in front of you to fight with your past. You are speaking as an adult. The third practice is to describe your emotions using descriptive language, not judgmental language. Judgments sound like, "You're so insensitive," "You're selfish," "You don't care about me," "You only think of yourself." All of these are projections. You don't actually know what's going on in someone else's inner world. The only thing you truly know is your own. So instead, describe, "I feel left behind when you don't reply. I feel anxious when you go silent. I feel unsafe when the conversation is suddenly cut off." The other person may disagree with your evaluation, but they cannot deny the feeling that you are experiencing. Feelings don't need to be justified. They need to be acknowledged. Another powerful practice is to slow down before you speak. When emotion flares up, the ego always wants to talk fast, loud, and sharp, as if you don't speak right now, the feeling will swallow you whole. But when you slow down, taking a breath, placing a hand on your chest, feeling your heartbeat, you allow reason and the self to enter the conversation. Then you can say, "Something is happening inside me. Let me find the right words," instead of projecting with phrases like, "You're always like this," "You never change." Slowing down doesn't make you weaker. Slowing down makes you clearer. The final and deepest practice is to express your feelings without expecting the other person to fix them for you. This is the line that separates maturity from dependence. When you say, "I feel abandoned, so you have to change," you are handing your entire inner world into someone else's hands. But when you say, "I feel abandoned, and I'm learning to understand this feeling," you keep your inner power. The other person can support you, but they are no longer responsible for you. And when you no longer need someone else to repair your emotions, the relationship becomes lighter, more truthful, and more mature. When you practice speaking your emotions clearly, you break the automatic mechanism of projection. You stop seeing others through the lens of your past. You stop casting them into roles they never agreed to play. You begin to see. They are them. You are you. And your emotions are yours, not evidence against anyone, not a weapon, not a justification. Everything becomes quieter, clearer, and surprisingly, also more spacious. Rule 7. Put meaning above achievement. That spaciousness is not a painful emptiness. It is the open space that appears when you stop living by your shadow, stop living by expectations, stop living by reflex. A strange inner clearing that asks you one very simple, yet almost impossible to avoid question. If I'm no longer chasing these illusions, then what is truly worth living for? Number 1. Find the question that haunts you most and see it as the story of your life. When Jung said that each person's life is a personal myth, he wasn't talking about events, achievements, or outer milestones. He was speaking of an inner story that your soul has always been trying to tell, no matter how many times you've tried to ignore it. And the simplest way to find that story is to look at the question that haunts you most. The question you've carried since childhood without being taught it. The question that returns in every decision, every collapse, every success, even in the moments when you think you've finally outrun it. Everyone has such a question. Some people carry the question, who am I when I'm not pleasing others? Some are haunted by, can I really live my life in my own way? Others ask, what was I truly born to do? At first glance, these just look like scattered questions. But when you look deeply, you'll see they keep reappearing like an underground melody, guiding you into similar choices, similar fears, and similar kinds of love. Imagine you're standing before a vast forest. Achievements are like big paved roads, noisy, well lit, clearly marked, where others only need to glance to know where you're heading. But your haunting question is like a small path, darker, quieter, less traveled, and only you can see it. If you only chase achievement, you'll keep walking those paved roads, impressive, but soulless. If you follow the small path, you begin to enter a territory that belongs only to you, where you are not a polished version of someone else, but the true version of yourself. Jung believed that only when a person knows the story they are living can they step into life as a free subject, rather than as a product of their past or of social pressure. But to see that story, you must be brave enough to look at the question that has followed you through the years. The haunting question does not appear in your mind. It flashes up in the moments when you are at your weakest, when you're rejected, misunderstood, defeated, or standing between two important choices. Those are the moments you hear your inner voice most clearly. It also shows up when you succeed. You get what you wanted, yet feel strangely empty, because achievement cannot answer the question your soul is asking. Some people go through half their life before realizing they've been chasing recognition, not because they love the spotlight, but because they've always carried the feeling of not being seen. Some change careers 3 times before understanding that what they're seeking isn't income, but meaning. Some leave a relationship and suddenly realize, I've always chosen people who couldn't love me the way I need, because my question was never truly answered. Once you recognize your haunting question, your whole life begins to rearrange itself differently. Failures that once crushed you now make sense. Choices you were ashamed of start to reveal their inner logic. Pains that seemed pointless turn into clues leading you back to the center of who you are. Finding your haunting question is not about self-torment. It's about seeing coherence inside the chaos. It's recognizing that your life has never been random. It has always orbited around a central axis. You simply hadn't noticed it. This is the moment when achievement stops being your only metric. You begin to care more about what keeps you truly alive than about what earns you praise. You start to see that meaning is not found in how much you accomplish, but in whether each thing you do brings you closer to the story your life is trying to tell. And this is what Jung meant. Every person is a myth in the making. Achievement is only the surface of the iceberg. Meaning is the vast, submerged mass that actually determines your true direction. When you discover your haunting question and accept it as the main axis of your life, everything begins to realign. You choose work that fits you better, relationships that resonate more deeply, clearer boundaries, goals that are sharper, and most importantly, you stop chasing what was never meant for you. When you live according to your haunting question, you no longer seek achievement to prove anything. You seek meaning to become yourself. This is the first step in shifting from a life that is evaluated to a life that is felt. And as you move into the next part of this rule, you'll learn how to keep walking that path without being bewitched by the world's approval, focusing instead on what your soul is quietly asking you to complete. Number 2. Prioritize what makes you feel life has meaning. Jung believed that a person only feels truly well when they live close to their own nature, and that nature is not measured by what you achieve, but by what feels right to you. This sense of right is not loud. It isn't a momentary excitement. It's a quiet, deep, grounded state, like feeling your roots sink into the earth instead of drifting around in the wind. So how do you know what is meaningful? Look at the moments when you forget about time. The times when you're doing something very simple, yet your inner world lights up. Writing a few lines, tending a small plant, quietly helping someone, creating something small that reflects your inner self. Those moments are clues. Meaning often hides inside the ordinary things you assume have no value. But it is precisely that ordinariness that reveals who you really are. Sometimes meaning isn't comfortable. Some things make you tense, challenged, tired. But when you finish them, you feel larger, more whole, as if some missing piece inside your chest has finally fallen into place. Meaning is not always sweet. Often it asks you to face what you've long avoided, repairing a relationship, daring to say what you've been hiding, daring to turn a new page, daring to leave what is easy. Meaning is what expands you as a human being, not what makes you most comfortable. And here is the part many people overlook. Meaning isn't only found in your work or big life choices. It's in how you treat your own body and the people closest to you. Jung saw the human being as one unified system. The soul cannot be well if the body is falling apart, and your sense of meaning cannot be complete if you neglect the core relationships in your life. Caring for your body is a spiritual act, not just a health habit, because the body is the first home of your being. Someone may say they want to live a meaningful life, yet they sleep poorly, eat carelessly, are constantly tense and never pause to breathe. That person is living disconnected from themselves. Meaning cannot sprout in an exhausted body. No one can connect with their soul when their mind is worn out and their body is collapsing. Those moments when you walk slowly, breathe deeply, eat a real meal, sleep enough. All of that may seem small, but they are the foundations that allow you to hear the most subtle voice within. Similarly, spending time with family is also a form of prioritizing, which many ignore. Not because family is always comfortable, but because family relationships often hold the deepest psychological lessons. When you truly show up with your parents, your children, your siblings, you are touching the roots of who you are. You see yourself in them and see their shadows in you. You heal wounds that no career success can ever reach. And sometimes, a single unhurried dinner, an honest conversation, or a moment of listening without judgment can be more meaningful than any achievement you had that day. What makes this path hard is that meaning rarely impresses the world right away. You may choose a project that makes you feel alive, and others think you're missing better opportunities. You may choose a slower, deeper, more patient path, and people see it as a lack of ambition. If you live by their gaze, you will quickly lose your own story and become a supporting character in someone else's. On the other hand, when you prioritize meaning, something interesting happens. Achievements start coming to you, but in a more natural rhythm, in ways that don't drain you. Achievement is no longer the source of your worth, just a sign that you're on the right track. It's no longer the center, it's simply a side effect. Prioritizing meaning also helps you deal with the fear of missing out, that invisible race many people run and can never finish. When you know what truly matters to you, you no longer worry that others are moving faster or climbing higher. You no longer need to win a race you never wanted to enter in the first place. You only want to walk your path correctly, and that sets you free in a strange way, light yet deep, humble yet steady. Prioritizing meaning also makes you choose different kinds of relationships. You no longer choose someone who makes you look good as a couple, but someone who makes you honest. No longer someone who offers surface-level safety, but someone with whom you can be real without being on guard. No longer someone who fits the image you've built, but someone who fits your soul. And a relationship built on meaning will always be more enduring than a relationship built on social status or optics. When you prioritize meaning, you begin to realize that your life is no longer a series of tasks to complete, but a long conversation between you and your soul. You stop asking, "What do others want from me?" and start asking, "What makes me more truthful?" And when you live like that, you become a person with inner weight, because your strength comes from knowing you are living the right story. Number 3, honor your own pace of evolution without comparing yourself to anyone. Once you have begun to prioritize meaning instead of achievement, the next thing Jung wants you to understand is this: every soul has its own pace of development, like each seed sprouting in its own season, not according to anyone else's calendar. This is one of the most liberating truths and one of the hardest to accept, because we live in a world that tries to force everyone into the same speed. Those who move more slowly are labeled failures. Those who turn another way are seen as lost. Those who don't showcase their achievements are considered to have nothing worth mentioning. And that noisy tempo is precisely what makes you lose your own rhythm. The inner pace of evolution is not the same as society's running speed. Society wants comparison. The soul is indifferent to any race because it knows no one shares the same starting point, the same wounds, the same lessons, the same path. Each person carries a different map. Comparison only pulls you off your own map and into someone else's. Try looking more closely at your own journey. There are things you understood more slowly than others, but when you understood deeply. There were phases when you stood still, but that stillness allowed you to turn your whole life in another direction. There were years when you felt you achieved nothing, but in truth, those were the years you healed, untied inner knots, rebuilt foundations. Often, the quiet years are the most important ones. But because no one applauds inner movement, you mistake yourself for not progressing. Jung believed that the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming yourself, always unfolds at a deeply personal speed. No one has the right to decide how fast you must change, when you must grow up, at what age you must be settled, or at what point you must be successful. Those are empty metrics society presses onto everyone like a steel mold. But the soul does not live in molds. It lives in rhythm, and only you can hear that rhythm. Watching others move faster, climb higher, and take more glamorous turns can shake you. But remember, you're only seeing the outcome. You don't see the price they paid. Maybe years of silent nights alone with an inner emptiness no one knows. Bouts of exhaustion that made them feel they were about to collapse. Relationships cracked under pressure they couldn't share. You see them rise, but you don't see the times they sacrificed their health, ignored their emotional needs, or acted against their own nature. You see outward success, not the fractures, hollowness, or compromises inside. Everyone is wrestling with a darkness you know nothing about, and in the same way, no one fully understands your journey either. If at times you feel you are moving slowly, ask yourself, am I truly slow, or just different? Some people take the long way around, but that long way leads them into the deepest parts of themselves. Some spend years struggling with a single wound, but when it heals, they become someone no storm can shake. Some don't find their voice until their 30s or 40s, but once they do, they live the rest of their life with a clarity others never reach. Honoring your own pace of evolution also means accepting the pauses, the times you need to stop and breathe, to understand, to heal, to release what no longer fits. Seen through society's eyes, those pauses look like stagnation. Seen through the lens of depth psychology, they are incubation periods. Like winter is not death, but the time a tree spends feeding its roots underground. Without winter, there is no spring. Without the silence, there is no transformation. When you respect your own rhythm, you no longer rush into a new chapter just because others already have. You no longer force yourself to hit certain milestones just because your peers did. You also stop pushing yourself to be strong, wise, efficient, or exceptional right now. You give yourself the time to grow in the way your soul needs, not the way society demands. And when you grant yourself that time, you become deeper, more resilient, less easily swayed. Your unique rhythm also shows in the way you accept that some things arrive late. Late love, late self-understanding, late career, late confidence. But late does not mean less. Sometimes late is precisely right. A fruit that ripens late is often sweeter. A person who blossoms late is often more grounded, less deluded, clearer about what they want. Most importantly, when you honor your own pace of evolution, you stop using others as a measuring stick. You see them as souls also trying to find their way, stumbling, growing at their own pace. You don't envy, you don't belittle yourself, you don't judge. You understand that everyone has their own shadow to face, lessons to learn, knots to untie. And so, you become gentler with yourself and with them. Even after you've walked through Jung's 7 rules with all your light and all your darkness, perhaps the most important thing this journey leaves you with is not a skill or a lesson, but a quiet sense of peace. The peace of someone who has finally touched themselves after many years of living inside the noise of the world. You don't need to fully understand Jung to change. You just need to be a little more honest with your feelings, a little more patient with your fears, a little more tender with the rhythm of your inner growth. And day by day, you become whole in a way that no one but you can define. The journey of psychological maturation does not create a perfect person. It creates a truthful one, and it is this truthfulness that makes others naturally respect you. A weight formed from the fact that you have looked into your shadow, stepped away from the crowd, taken off the mask, touched the self, reconciled your opposing parts, withdrawn your projections, and finally chosen to live a meaningful life according to your own rhythm. You may still feel clumsy, still afraid, still unable to find words for the haunting question of your life, but that is not failure. It is simply proof that you are alive, listening, changing, moving toward your own center. And on that journey, no one can walk it for you, but you are not truly walking it alone. If what you've read here touches some part of you, keep it. Come back to it whenever you need. Each time you return, you'll understand one more layer. Because the journey of becoming yourself is not a straight line, but a downward spiral, going deeper and deeper until you meet the part of you that Jung believed everyone carries, the whole, wise, and quiet center of the soul.